Well, a very warm welcome once again, guys. It's Kasim. I hope Paul is well. I have another question here that I wanted to answer and give some thoughts on. Hopefully, you'll be able to add some value to the quality of your life. As many of you know, I am due to be qualified as a therapist, as a counselor. Um, but also, I used to working in a school and have spent about 3 years going across Southwest London doing workshops on mental health, on healthy relationships, and various other subjects. So I get lots of questions asked of me by lots and lots of young people. And I wanted to find a way to be able to scale it and reach as many young people as I can and impart some of the things that I have learned in my lifetime. And I saw a question on the student room. It is entitled, I'm 16, turning 17 in 4 months. Is it okay for me to have a sugar daddy? And I wanted to share some thoughts with you. So, as you can see, for those of you who are looking online, there is a young person who says, I'm 16, I'm a high school dropout. My family doesn't make a lot of money, and my house is over 100 years old and my house is falling apart. And this young person said, now, from what it is looking like, the title, it says Mary W. So I'm assuming this is a girl who is sharing this. So, but also some of the things that I'm going to say both apply universally, boy or girl. They can apply to both anyway. So let's firstly start off by saying the outright answer that I would give is no. And I've wrote down multiple things here to why I believe that the answer is no. Now, remember, I'm not an expert. I can't tell anyone what they can and cannot do. Ultimately, I can only give things from my perspective. Everyone has their own story, everyone has their own journey. Um, and I can only share with you what I have learned, and then ultimately you decide whether it has some utility to you or not. But if I was in the same position, the answer to or I was advising my sister or a cousin or somebody who I cared about, or who I'd come across who was 16, turning 17 in 4 months, I would say to them that the answer would be no. And the first reason is that one, it is illegal, so the legalities of it, and the way that the law looks at anything like this is that essentially having a sugar daddy entails, from the many parts, some sort of an exchange. There is something that you give the sugar daddy, and then the sugar daddy gives you money or presents or something in return for what you've given them. And the problem that you have initially is that a young person under the age of 18 cannot um, fully comprehend and understand and be exchanging stuff with an adult. Particularly, what usually happens, and somebody said it in the comments below this, is that at some point, whether you like it or not, down the road, it is usually going to become and have an element of sex to do with it, whether it's the exchanging of images, whether it's the exchange of feet pictures. It might turn into sextortion. Google sextortion if you want, and find out what that entails. But in some way or another, there's going to be something that is inappropriate. Boundaries are going to be crossed. And part of the reason why boundaries are going to be crossed, it leads to the second thing that I wrote down, which is that there is an imbalance of power. A healthy, boundaried, and consensual relationship ideally should be somewhere in, if you look at the balancing and the scales, between 50-50. Of course, there's going to be fluctuations, right? Where you might have somebody who earns £100,000 and you have somebody who earns £20,000, but they will be one, they'll be over the age of 18, so they can do whatever it is that they want. But two, um, they will be as if their relationship is healthy, there'll be aspects of the relationship where each person is bringing something to the table. That may be one of them is bringing money, but the other one might be bringing other aspects like spirituality. They may be bringing organizational skills. In other words, the relationship should be balanced in that either person is happy to each person feels that they have some influence over the other person to some degree. If the relationship is essentially hierarchical or patriarchal, where one person has all the power um, then it isn't a healthy or good relationship. How do you know if the relationship is hierarchical or one person has there is an imbalance of power? We'll just look, is it easy for you to say no without feeling guilt or shame, or feeling like something terrible is going to happen or you're going to lose something? If you feel like actually I can end this and it doesn't matter, then that's fine. But part of the reason why I was telling you about sextortion is because a lot of young people end up in this situation where they do end up in a sugar daddy or some sort of exchange relationship, and down the road there is an imbalance of power because they try to get out of it, and they've lost control. The power is now in the hands of the what the in the eyes of the law is going to be seen as the perpetrator, is going to be seen as the predator, because anyone who is indeed exchanging or in a sugar daddy relationship with somebody who's 16, that person knows, everyone knows, that legally you shouldn't be in a relationship with somebody, or shouldn't be in that type of relationship with somebody, a sugar daddy relationship with somebody who's under the age of 18. So there is going to be a natural imbalance of power, and that person is going to naturally want to take advantage of it. The other thing that I wrote down here is that there is a residual cost. And what I mean by this is that things can very quickly spiral out of control. When there is an imbalance of power, or you're in a situation where you've never been before, you don't know the rules, you don't know the boundaries, you don't know the game, then it means that you can be taken advantage of, but also it can mean that things can very quickly get out of control, which is why I was talking earlier on about sextortion. One minute you're just having a chat, the next minute the person's arguing, they're threatening you, they're shouting at you, they're blaming you, they're calling you names. One minute it's just that you're just exchanging text messages and they're sending you money, but now they have your bank accounts, but now they're sending you thousands of pounds, but now you're scared to tell the school, but now you're having to keep it a secret. And that secret then leads on to the next thing, which is your mental health. And somebody, I think, in the comment talked about mental health, actually, right? One of the things that happens when you're in this sort of a relationship is that there is a price that has to be paid. There is a price. There's a residual, there is both an immediate price and a residual price. And unfortunately, for a young person, one of the areas that it affects you is in terms of your mental health. It affects your self-esteem. It affects the way that you see yourself, right? If you are exchanging your body, or you're exchanging aspects of yourself that degrade yourself, or that take away from your essence, or from your core, or from your natural being, or from your soul, then it will feel as though you're empty, because you're giving something that isn't of equal value. Right? It's like somebody breaking into your house and taking something that is really valuable to you, right? That valuable thing might be a picture. In the eyes of other people, it may not look like that. It's a picture. It's not that big of a deal. But when someone takes something like that, which is so prized, which is so sacred, which is so special, it leaves you empty. It leaves a void in your life. And for a lot of people, that lack of self-esteem, that we know from research that when you start doing stuff like this and engaging in these sorts of relationship, it leads to promiscuity, which can then lead to early pregnancy, which can then lead to depression, anxiety, stress. It can lead to OCD. It can lead to all kinds of different mental health issues, and concerns that one experiences. Now, you might be the sort of person who says, I don't care. And that's kind of where safeguarding comes in. And that's where, because let me, before I actually continue, let me say that I am so impressed with the fact that you're actually asking this question, because if you're asking this question deep down, you know that an aspect of this is wrong, or is not in your, it would not serve your best interest, or would not serve the best and the most sacred aspects of your humanity. There's an aspect of that that isn't going to serve you in some way. You know it intrinsically, which is why I'm guessing you asked a question. But going back to what I was saying, um, you know, part of you may be the sort of person who may be saying, "Well, I don't care. I don't care. I just want the money. I just want my help. I just want to help my family, etc." But and that's all good. However, part of why we have safeguarding, part of why we have police officers, part of why we have elders is that sometimes some people know more than you do. Sometimes you can make a decision that you think is right, but the decision is actually wrong, which is why sometimes we need other people to help us and guide us. It's why we need parents. It's why we need elders. It's why we need counselors and therapists and people and friends and family. Sometimes we need other people to help us to stay on in integrity, to stay in a place where we do not betray the sacred aspects of who we are as a human being. And what I would share with you, and again, I've said in many of my videos, you can do whatever it is that you want to do. I can't tell you what to do. No one can tell you what to do. Ultimately, it's your life and how you live it is completely up to you. But what I would say is staying in integrity is has a lot more fruit and a lot more um is going to be a lot more fruitful and is going to be more beneficial for you in the long run than going into a place where you betray sacred parts of who you are as a person. And that leads me to the final thing, which is what I want to say, which is that taking this route is trying to take a shortcut. And the problem that you have is when you start taking shortcuts or you try to take the quicker road, is that you don't learn patience. You don't learn lessons. You don't basically step up and be worthy of the success that you've got. In other words, you get there, you will achieve, you will be successful, but it will be as if there is a really important part of who you are still behind. In other words, you won't have grown in character. You won't have grown in insight. You won't have grown in life lessons, right? There are things that patience, that time can teach us that if we expedite things, if we get to success, if we get to that our goals faster, we end up sacrificing those things. And not everything in life is about winning. Not everything in life is about achieving. Sometimes the most important things are the things that are invisible, right? It's it's the insights, it's the lessons, it's the principles, it's the life lessons that we've learned, right? It's the fundamentals and the basics, and do you know what I mean? It's those things where there are some things that are invisible that you cannot learn quickly. They take time. To gain experience takes time. And so what I would share with you is sometimes there is magic. Sometimes there is meaning in the fact that you're waiting and sacrificing and struggling a bit more, right? And it may be that you struggling for another 2 years until you turn 18 might be one of the most painful things, but it will also build an incredible fire within you after you turn 18 to go mad upon your dreams, your goals, to really go and educate yourself. Um, so that's what I would share with you. Again, I don't know if that has any utility or it's been useful to you, but that's what I would share. And I hope it's answered your question, Mary W. Yeah, guys, you know what to do. If you find this useful, like, subscribe, send me messages or send me your questions, and I will do my very best to answer them to the best of my ability. Thank you very much for listening and watching, and I will speak to you very soon. Bye for now.